Hello! Welcome back to Cool Discussions. I'm Barry. This is Chris. Like our new background, guys? Pretty cool. Huh? Yeah, pretty neat. Today we're going to talk a little bit about something kind of cool. We're going to travel back in time. And it's easy to do on YouTube because you can just go back over here or over there, click on an old video, and that's like time travel. You're watching the past. It's great. We're going to talk about time travel because it's cool. It's fun. It's interesting.
Yes.
You always think about, would you go back if you could and change something in your life? And all the repercussions that could happen. We've all seen the movie Butterfly Effect, right?
Yeah.
Well, not all of us, but I have, yeah.
I have as well.
And the premise of that movie, for those who haven't seen it, is the guy travels in time, but if you change something, it has a ripple effect in the future that you thought was there is no longer there, and it's different because of the thing that you did in the past. So that's what that movie's about, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about.
Now, obviously, time travel we see in movies, in TV, and they're always dealing with consequences. You know, people travel back in time. It's like, oh, you can't change anything because if you change things, the future isn't the same.
Yeah.
And time travel is a really, really interesting study of science. Actually, you know, it is studied by scientists. Well, more like fantasized by scientists, because there isn't any real aspects of real time travel out there.
Well, that we know of. There's
that we're aware
tons
of.
of conspiracy there's about people
Indeed.
traveling. There's pictures of people, like the one that I remember that sticks out in my head is that there's a picture of like a boxing match in the background. You can see somebody holding up what looks like a camera, but then somebody breaks it down and is like, well, this isn't a camera. From the time period, it looks different. Or there's other pictures of people wearing sunglasses that weren't invented in the time period, or wristwatches, or stuff like that. And it's kind of it's interesting to think about. What if there was time travel? Obviously, it would never be available to the public.
No, what was it? The movie Looper. It's like they're talking about it and talking about time travel, and it's like in the year 2037, time travel was invented, and it was immediately outlawed by world governments. And it's just like, well,
that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what would happen if we had time travel. The government would control it and never let anybody else do it.
But, okay, if some mad scientist actually invented time travel, don't you think he would use it before?
Yeah, you would think.
Before there was chances for the government to take it away?
Well, you would think. Now, there's 3 different types of time travel that I saw. That I could find on the interwebs from some quick searching on the Google. The first one is the multi-universe, where it's exactly what it is, and I think this is the closest, and I think it's the most realistic thing you could probably. We've seen it in many movies where there's many different worlds and many different universes on the same time frame and same line type thing. So like, there's 5 different me's. When you are at a road, say in a fork in a road in your life, there's, in this scenario, one of you went right, one of you went left. Both things happened, and we're only in this one. So right now, me, in another universe, is living a completely different life.
Because you went left.
Because I went left instead of right.
And I love this, the multi-universe one, because the possibilities are endless in regards to anything and everything that happened. And just imagine, if World War II had never happened, how the world would be a different place. Imagine if the Dark Ages, the medieval times, had never happened. Oh, for that matter, imagine if the Renaissance had never happened.
Yeah. Right?
So there's a possibility for anything and everything. So, in one of these universes, you are Batman.
Maybe. I think that's like the coolest one to look at, because it's you still have your current life and the current timeline that you're on, but there could also be another timeline. Now, wasn't there a movie that no, it was the Strange Things on Netflix that I just watched. It was pretty good.
Stranger Things?
Yeah, Stranger Things, yeah.
Okay.
And it had kind of the idea. I'm gonna maybe spoil a little piece of it.
Oh, I'm gonna be watching it.
There's a world in it called the Upside Down world, and it's where the world exists, and like it's a darker world underneath the light world. I'll just leave it at that. And I thought that was pretty cool because, and there was a gate with the ability to travel between the two.
Oh yeah, and
so
dimensional shifting. What is generally considered that when you have a multiverse is that they're separated by dimensions. So the only way to travel is dimensional travel. So dimensional portals, dimensional travel, wormholes, all those things are predominant throughout sci-fi about how to get around.
and it even says on this chart that I'm looking at that Star Trek is one of the main, like you see it in Star Trek. And stuff like that.
Marvel actually does the same thing, and DC just started doing it as well. So they also have multiverses that have different aspects of things.
So in this scenario, if you traveled back or you traveled ahead in time, we'll use back, and you changed an event, the current timeline that you traveled from would remain the same.
Yep.
It would just create a new timeline, and that's all it would do in this one. And the other one,
so there aren't dire consequences.
No,
if
this
you
one's
do something
exactly.
So it's more a matter of like you do something just to see what would happen, but nothing permanent.
Yeah, it just creates a new timeline. That's all it does. That's all it does, and so really that would be in the best case scenario for time travel.
Yeah, it would be because
there would
you
be
could
no
travel safely, and you wouldn't have to worry about
Exactly.
this butterfly effect. Now, the butterfly effect is not just a movie.
Yeah, there's tons of it's
the butterfly effect is a scientific principle stating that one small movement can over space and time can affect large change.
it's like a ripple in the ocean.
Yeah, what the common analogy used for it is a butterfly in China flaps its wing and creates a tornado in the U.S.
Yeah.
That is the common analogy for it, and it's not the best one, but it's there.
The next one that I hear, the dynamic timeline, which is altered events in the past have a direct impact on the current future. So if you go back and you kill your grandfather, you are in a sense killing yourself, because you've in a sense stopped your own birth, the birth of your father, the birth of you.
This is the one that is the time paradox. This is where time paradoxes come from.
Exactly.
Paradox is something that exists even though it's not supposed to.
It just creates a loop.
Yeah,
That's all it does. Because it's just a loop. You're just going to be doing the same thing over and over again. Therefore it creates, like you said, a paradox. And this is, I think, if time travel existed, this is where the fear would come in of that. People would use it to go back and...
Yeah, because one of the scientists say it's the grandfather paradox. Or you don't even have to call the grandfather paradox. What you can actually do is, one scientist put it this way. You build a time machine, and then you open up the time machine just far enough in your past to see yourself just before you invented the time machine and shoot yourself. Could you do it?
There's a movie about that. I can't remember. It was on Netflix and I watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
What the hell was it called? I can't remember now.
But it's a true thing. It's like, could it happen? And that's the thing, is when you think about it, killing yourself, or even for that matter, killing your grandfather, if your grandfather doesn't exist, how was your father born? Your father wasn't, so how are you born? So how are you able to go back in time and stop this?
Yeah.
Now, it's one of those things. It either creates a loop, an endless loop, where everybody's stuck in time and no one would ever notice, or it happens and then it just changes. But that's the one that's...
This is seen in Back to the Future. This is the example that they gave here, was that this concept was in Back to the Future. We've all seen Back to the Future. It was pretty cool. The third one was the fixed timeline, which even when parties travel back in time, the future they left cannot be changed because all the events in the past have already been accounted for. So the time traveling has already been accounted for. So you've become part of the past.
Yes.
And it already is part of how the future becomes.
Now, this is where time travel in movies and TV tends to be used the most often. simply because they set it up that way so they can have you go back, nothing changes, and in fact, everything you did in the past was actually what made it possible for the future, your future, to have happened the way it did. TV shows do it really well. It sounds silly, but there's a Disney cartoon called Gargoyles. They actually did a really, really well done version of it. Is the wizard in there? He falls on hard times. The wizard from his future shows up and helps him out, digs him out of the trouble, and then he meets him to meet his future self. And in one room you have the past, the present, and the future wizards. And then they do it so well that you go from the one from the past. He gets rescued by his future self, and then he meets the two other selves, and then he goes to do what he needs to do. He becomes the present, the wizard, and then he goes back in time, helps himself, does the other things, comes back, and he's the future one telling his past one, this is what you got to do. And just watching the whole thing, and it's just like, by the end of it, it's like, that was really well played. Yeah. Like, time travel in books, TV, and movies can be poorly done, and
it's a hard thing to pull off.
It is.
I read a book, Timeline, by, was it Michael Crichton? Yeah, it was Michael Crichton who wrote it. And then the book was amazing. They made it into a movie, and the movie stunk.
The thing was, like, he read that book, he told me about it, and I read it.
That's probably the only book I've ever read in my life.
And it was actually really
It was really good. Yeah. It was a really well done book, and the thought process behind it was really good, but to interpret that into a movie was not good at all. I thought it was kind of a fail. And so now we're going to move on to some fun with this time travel and talk about events that I'm going to talk about events that I would like to see, and I'm going to get his opinion on events he would like to see, and if he would change any of these events. There's one event that I would really love to just be an observer of. If I could travel in time, I would love to go back and see the Titanic sink.
Wow.
I think that would be an amazing event to be there to witness, because it was the biggest naval disaster of its time. And even to this day, it still remains one of the biggest, and it's still one of the most talked about every time it comes around on an anniversary. We just turned 100 4 years ago, the anniversary of it, in 2012. Or
really?
Yeah, wow. I think was it 12? Yeah, 12. And I've always loved the Titanic. No, I like the movie as well, but I prefer more the documentary type things of it.
James Cameron,
stuff like that.
That stuff, right?
Well, James Cameron made the movie.
Yeah, no, but he also did the documentary about Titanic.
I like those things because I think it's cool. So that I wouldn't want to change anything, because who knows? You don't know what effect it would have.
Yeah, and that is one of those things. Is do you change anything? Personally, I would love, as cliche as this is, I would want to see the pyramids being built.
I would love to see that kind of thing too. I was just going to say I would like to go back into those medieval kind of those. What's that? Cleopatra. What's her name? What's that period of time? Is there a name for it?
No.
Just to see because you think you look at it and go, we would have a hard time now with our technology building that.
Well, that's what a lot of people say. It's nowadays it would cost billions to do, and it's just my general assumption is we as modern people think people in the past were stupid.
Yeah, we don't give them the credit.
We don't give them enough credit. So it's kind of I would love to go back and see how it's done, just to go, wow. Because the pyramids, they're, 4,000 or 5,000 years old or something like that, and they're still standing. They're not as good shape as they used to be, but they're still standing.
Yeah.
And nothing besides mountains has that kind of longevity. So to go back in time to witness that being built, obviously I'd sit there in my little time travel machine and hit fast forward and Just kind of watch him go.
Yeah, in fucking fast mode.
Well, you're not going to sit there and watch him do it over
I think
20
it would be
years.
cool. Yeah, it would be cool to go back and see. Like, I wouldn't go back to, like, World War II and stuff like that, because we can turn on our TV to CNN now and see war and stuff like that. But to go back and see...
Well, not even, World War II is well documented. World War One, for that matter, is well documented. It's just not documented on film.
Right.
It is documented by people, biographies and things like that. World War II, again, well documented. There's no need to see it. To see some of the medieval battles that had happened, or even like battles from
to see how
antiquity,
close we are on like how accurate our documentation of this history is.
Yeah,
Would be the coolest thing, because you could go back in time and you could be like, you were way off, or you were right.
yeah. No, it would be incredibly awesome to be able to go back in time and just watch how things were done. I personally, in the grand scheme of things, I love the multiverse idea, but I don't think that's...
I would love that, because you could jump around and you could go to different...
At that point in time, I would want to be able to travel from multiverse to multiverse.
Yeah.
Just because at some point in time,
see where
somebody has jetpacks.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody
in
has
my
some
timeline,
flying cars.
Exactly.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
So it's that at that point, it would be a matter of jumping to other places to see what they have. In the grandfather paradox one, you can't do. There's nothing at all. Time travel at that point in time is hazardous.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to time travel, because just your existence, stepping on a plant, could
possibly break
ruin the world.
Everything.
Could end the world if you step on the wrong plant or something like that. So to do that, if there was a safe way to do it, yeah, that would be cool. But I don't think there. I don't see it possible. I don't see.
No. There would.
Yeah. You could never do it,
Yeah, like, time travel is awesome. Like, I watch Doctor Who. I love the concept that he can go anywhere, anytime. And he often does. Being able to go and interact without having to worry about destroying things. Like, in the Doctor Who universe, there's things called fixed points in time that no matter what you do, you can't change it.
Yeah.
So, for example, I know Doctor Who people out there are going to yell at me because I didn't get it right. But, for example, like JFK being shot would be a fixed point in time.
Yeah.
And because it's a fixed point in time, you can't go back and stop.
Well, that's the dynamic.
Yeah. But
in
the Doctor Who universe, in the rest of the universe, you can actually fiddle with everything else.
Yeah.
So you could go back and go, what Doctor Who does quite frequently he saves people.
That's the fixed timeline.
Yeah. For example, there's an episode of Pompeii, about Pompeii, right? Pompeii, everybody knows it's a volcano that just destroys everything, buries it in molten lava. Well, the story behind it was there was molten aliens underneath, setting up a military complex to take over the world. Doctor Who thwarts him, and his companion says, well, we have to save people, and the Doctor's like, we can't, we don't know what's going to happen. And he's like, the companion is like, you have to save somebody. You can't let them all die. And he goes, fine, I will save one family. And that's what he goes, and he saves one family, and he takes the family, and they all watch the destruction of Pompeii. And I don't know how many people actually know this, but the word volcano was actually birthed at Pompeii. And this person that he saves is watching the whole thing and goes, wow, that's a volcano. And you just saw the birth of the word volcano by saving somebody, which is one of those things of the fixed timeline.
Yeah.
Right? So,
it's already part of history.
Exactly.
So it's already...
Was it supposed to happen
So,
that way?
in a sense, a fixed timeline is this. Your life is already planned out for you. So what we're doing here today was going to happen regardless of what I did 25 years ago.
Well, but what about the future, though? That's the thing. Is like, is the future fixed based off of what...
But that's in that my understanding. That's what it would be, because if you traveled back in time and and change something, and it didn't affect the future,
You did what you were supposed to do.
yeah, you did what you were supposed to do.
But
so,
at that point in time, all of our futures are destined. We
so,
have
that
no
leads,
free will.
and that leads into the other part of time travel, not going backwards, but going forwards. Right. So
Yep.
it comes into: is our timeline of life fixed? And we just think it's not? Is it?
Because some scientists actually theorize that time is a loop. I don't know if you ever heard this,
Nope.
but what they are saying is time, when you get so far forward, it ends up going, reverting back to the way it began, and then starts a new beginning. So the example would be, there was a TV show called Sequest.
I remember that one, I think, yeah.
They ended up going time travel. They ended up going to the future, and all of humanity had been wiped out. And all except for one male, one female. And they had to find a way to get these two to actually meet in person, because all they had ever known was virtual reality, and they were fighting through robots.
Right.
And they needed these two people to actually meet
and start again.
They would become Adam and Eve.
Yeah, start again. Okay.
So that's how humanity starts.
Would you go ahead in time if you could? Would you travel forward to give
if I
yourself
could get
an
back,
advantage?
because I would go forward and win the lottery.
I think that's what everybody would do. I think a lot of people would do that. I wonder if there would be no consequences except me being rich, I guess.
Well, okay, but that's where it comes down to. If it's a fixed timeline, you would never be able to do it.
Well,
Unless you were destined to be rich. And that's how you were supposed to do it,
Yeah.
right? Because if the fixed timeline works backwards, it would have to work forward.
So you were meant to go forward. And
Exactly. Now, after I won the lottery, I would go forward just to see if there's anything I could snitch and bring back.
would you go to your death and see how you die? I wouldn't. I don't think I would. I think that would be... Because then you would be subconsciously, you would know it in the back of your mind. When it's coming
would you
again.
ever want to know how you die?
That'd be weird to think
Or
about.
when you die?
Yeah. Are we going to die tomorrow?
Right? Because, think about it. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, your life would be different. But if you knew you were going to die 20 years from now, your life would still be different. But you know when you die. So, it's one of those things of...
And it's so weird how that works. Eh? Imagine if you knew when you were going to die and you would change how you live your life based on that. But now, as of now, because we don't know when we're going to die, we
have to plan for our life futures.
We just
have to
go
do
on
this.
like it's, we just go on doing everyday things like we're supposed to, like we're just programmed to, so it's weird.
True. If I could travel without having to worry about breaking things,
Yeah.
I would.
Well, yeah,
There
I
would
think
be no
anybody
question
would.
about
I think
it.
anybody would. But
Honestly, if the TARDIS showed up in front of my door and Doctor Who came out and said, "Travel with me," bye kids, gone. The great thing is he could literally drop you off 2 or 3 seconds later. However, that would be an amazing adventure. Just being able to travel through time and watching history, because there would be obvious things I'd like to avoid, like the signing of the Magna Carta. It's a big significant event, but it's not something I'd want to see.
yeah,
But building the pyramids, as cliche as that sounds, I would, because I would probably be amazed at just how intelligent these.
well,
the
you gotta think. Yeah, you gotta think that
civilization
there's
was.
intelligent people now. Why wouldn't there be intelligent people when those are built?
Yeah.
There's...
To think that people think that all old ancient people are stupid. No.
like Neanderthal types.
These people sailed
across
the
wood.
ocean in wooden boats.
Boats,
We
yeah.
sail across the ocean in steel boats. We still do it in wood. But
Not
those
very
are
good.
adventurous types.
Yeah.
Right? These people had no GPS.
No, they just went, okay, we're going to put our boat in the water and go.
Yeah.
And then they went, hey, we found new land.
Exactly. Different times. The fact that we need something like Pokemon Go to get outside.
Yeah. I would even go back like 25 years to see what life was back 25 years ago, because I don't remember it. very well. I don't.
I remember it a little
Like-
bit better than you do. So
I don't. It's like life 25 years ago was so different than it is now, in technology,
Yep.
in everything. How far the world has come, and I think it's pretty cool. It's really cool to think about the possibility that you could never time travel because it's never going to happen.
If you ever want to time travel, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, and if you know them well, talk to their friends. These people, our grandparents, lived in a much, much different time. Our grandfather, the one grandfather, he was in World War II.
It was, yeah.
Our grandmother had to live with him afterwards, which we don't know how things were, but
We didn't know what PTSD was back then.
yeah, that was a time before PTSD.
People
So-
just thought people came back from war and were crazy, and
Yeah.
they didn't know what. Now we know what PTSD is, and we have help
Tried
for it. We
to
try
help
help
people.
them and stuff like that. And
you know, but talk to them. Like,
that is the best way to time travel nowadays.
they lived life so different, and a lot of them will probably have no problems wanting to talk to you about it, because who doesn't want to reminisce about
And just
better
remember
times?
that when you're talking to them, one day you're going to be them with somebody talking to you, somebody talking to you, and you want to be able to have stories to tell them. So what are we going to tell them about our lives nowadays? That we played Pokemon Go, and we were obsessed with social media and technology. Don't forget to look up every once in a while. And don't let time pass you by.
We were actually old enough to be at a time
We're
before
older
the
than the internet. We were
When
both
we-
older than the internet.
When we used to have to go outside and play, which it's a craze right now, and people are going outside, but this is what we used to do for fun.
Without telephones, we'd throw sticks at each other.
Hockey sticks and use them like swords.
Yeah,
Don't
I don't know. We just wanted to talk. Yeah, we just wanted to talk a little bit about something kind of off seriousness. Because it's just a cool thing to think about. If you always wonder sometimes
What
if
would
you
you
would go
do?
back. Yeah, what would you do? Would you go back and would you change anything specifically in your life? Well, again, it comes back to is it a fixed timeline? Is it a multi-universe? Or is it a dynamic one? And it's like, if it's dynamic, and then no, because today where I am is where I'm supposed to be.
Yep.
If it was multi-universe, then there's already somebody else living a different life.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Somebody
take
went
over
left
their
and I
life.
went right. And if it's fixed, I've already traveled back in time. I've already figured out how to travel back, and here I am today. Gonna find out how to time travel eventually. I don't
think
even know.
the best one for time travel was on the Big Bang when they were signing the roommate agreement. And in the roommate agreement, it's like, if either one of us discover time travel, we travel back to this point in time and give it to us. And they sit there,
Yeah.
no, okay.
Okay.
And then they go on to the next article, the
Yeah.
roommate agreement, done. And it's true. It's like, if you invented time travel, why wouldn't you just
That's
go
right.
back and give it to yourself sooner?
That's right.
So you can enjoy your life.
Exactly. Don't forget to subscribe to us on the YouTubes.
Watch us, like us,
Do all that good stuff, guys.
subscribe.
Have a good day. We'll see you in the future.
Yes.
Or in the past. Who knows?
Our past, your future.
That's right.
I take that.
Some Inception shit right there. Goodbye.
See ya.